I heard a quote a long time ago. It's not what's wrong with us, it's what's happened to us. If there's been situations in our past that have been really positive or really negative, that really does taint who we are as adults. Anybody tells you that that's not okay, or oh, you shouldn't go see a counselor, those are the people, sadly, that probably need it the most. If you bring in play to work or playfulness, it gives everybody a voice. It allows people to interact with each other on a level that maybe they haven't before. So
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to Social Skills Coaching, where you become more likable, more charismatic, and more productive. And today we're going to take a branch off that more productive part because our guest, Jolyn Ledgerwood, is a consultant, coach, therapist, counselor, probably a wide variety of things, podcaster, I'm sure, as well as other social media sites. Jolyn, please introduce yourself to our listeners, and we'll take the conversation from there.
absolutely, thank you so much for having me. As you said, my name is Jolyn Ledgerwood. I started my business, Elevate Your Talent, a year and a half ago. Previously, I'd worked in corporate America in various different types of businesses, startups, cybersecurity, law, all different types of areas where I was director of training and development. And I absolutely loved training individuals on how to be better at their work and happier, find their innate talents so that they could check those boxes while they were at work or while they were at home to make them feel like they're living a more fulfilled life. And doing that in the corporate setting, they normally want you to write manuals and board and stuff like that. And so I went out on my own and started Elevate Your Talent, where I coach teams and individuals on how to work better in the workplace. I use several different methodologies. The most popular is Lego series play. And I also use Clifton strengths, Primal question, Bob Goff's dream big, and just try to use those to make a more well-rounded approach to coaching people and teams.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. You know what? I'm going to do something a little different today for the podcast. I notice when I go back and edit the video, I pay much more attention to the surroundings of the people. And there are oftentimes questions that I like to ask about what's in the background. And I see some yellow containers on the other side of you. Can you lean the other way for a second? Yeah.
Yes.
And the other things that are on your bookshelf back there indicates that while you're a serious professional, you definitely don't take a too serious approach to life. And of course, that's reflected in one of your main platforms, the Lego serious play workshops. So those things combined, tell us something about that. And then I want to get to the picture on the top of your bookshelf.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So years ago, I was having lunch with a friend that I hadn't spoken to in a really long time. And he brought with him a small kit of 6 Lego pieces. There's 4 yellow and 2 red. And he said, build a duck. And I thought, what are you talking about? And of course, it's a very abstract duck because there's not even number pieces. And so I put it together and he was like, tell me about your duck. And I was like, okay, here's the feed. Here's the explained it. And he had also built a duck and his was completely different than mine. And he said, this is a work that I've gotten into. It's called Lego Series Play. It's allowing people to use their hands to think through questions and problems and whatnot. And he said, and it's really cool. And I thought, oh my God, yeah, that's really cool. So I looked into it. There's over 15,000 certified facilitators overseas. There's maybe 100 here in the United States.
Oh, really?
And I thought, this is insane. Like, why? Like, we're Americans. We like to play. And
We
the
have
more I think,
Legoland.
yeah, right, exactly. The more I thought about it and the more people I've spoken to, it's because Americans, and again, please nobody take this personally, we have this little box of what work is supposed to look like. And if it doesn't fit in that little bitty box, then it can't help us. We don't want any part of it. Forget it. Like, we have work to do. We have real work to do. Well, when you bring in play to work or playfulness, it doesn't matter what that looks like, it really does allow people to let their guard down. It gives everybody a voice. It allows people to interact with each other on a level that maybe they haven't before. So imagine the old days when we used to walk into a conference room, or the fishbowl, as some people call it, and you just have this like anxiety and this angst just kind of creep up on you because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to be said, versus walking into that same conference room or fishbowl and every place setting has a set of Legos sitting next to it. And you go, wait a second, what's this about? We're going to have a strategic session, but we're going to have fun while we do it. And we use the Legos and the methodology to really open people's minds in how, what is their subconscious telling them that they don't think to say. A lot of highly energetic people, ADHD, ADD, people with just high anxiety in general, don't like to sit and do nothing. They need something to play with, something to use their hands on. And Lego Serious Play was a great way to do that. And by doing that in my business, it kind of helps propel and financially support my Lego habit. When I was a young adult, when I had a stressful day or when I was tired, I would find a Lego set that I really liked and would buy it and build it. And that
Okay.
alleviated my stress. That just allowed me to just kind of zen and chill. And as Lego continues to grow, their sets are just becoming phenomenal.
Right.
The
Right.
18 and over sets are, I mean, some of them are just beautiful. The Starry Night is my absolute favorite. The Great Wave was fun to do, but it wasn't as colorful. So it's exciting to have something else to do with one of my passions.
So much in there. Yeah. So we both have a international corporate IT background, it sounds like. So yeah, I remember walking into the boardroom was our big meeting room, or the teleconference room at that. Of course, this was before Zoom and everything was so common. So teleconference was more rare and a little more nerve wracking and a little pickier. Hardly ever
Mhm.
worked, seemed like. But when you walk in, and I mean, honestly, we usually looked for cookies or something on the table, but to have a
Mhm.
manipulative there rather than just an agenda, yeah, just changes the mindset of everybody walking into the room. I
Yeah.
imagine conversations are completely different of people beginning the meeting and so forth. That sounds like a great approach. I was reminded of a Rorschach test almost with your first duck,
Yeah.
uh, and how that was put together. So that's I wouldn't be able to draw much conclusion from it, but it's an interesting premise to base a conversation and a
Yeah.
developing a relationship on. It's great. Yeah, Legos are European. I'm going to name a country, but I'm going to get it wrong. Are they Finnish?
So
Denmark.
Dutch. Yeah, they're
Dutch.
based in
Yeah.
Denmark. Yeah, Billelund, Denmark.
Yeah. So I imagine maybe that's why a little more accepted in the business world overseas than in the States, but really, yeah, Lego is pretty big in the US. Like I say, there's so many kits.
Yeah.
I never was a Lego guy myself, but you have a long history of Lego use, so it makes you an expert coming into the.
Ooh, I don't know about an expert. I like to follow the rules when I get my books. A lot of people say that they take the rule book and toss it and just build whatever they want to build. I don't have a creative brain like that. So
Okay.
walking into a room and seeing those Lego bricks, I'd probably be one of them that's like, I'm not creative. I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
And just starting with something small, facilitators have, kind of a regiment to kind of just get people comfortable with the bricks and get them touching and, you know, moving them around and clicking pieces together and not. And it really just kind of takes that edge off. Plus, if you're in the room, you're building. So that's the leaders, the CEO, the chief operating officer, if they're in the room, all the way down to, I don't know, your administrative assistant might be in the room, or the new person that just started might be in the room. Everybody builds. Everybody has a place at the table, and everybody gets the same time and energy in explaining their builds, what's in it, what's not, all types of different things. But you'd really be amazed if you could hear and see, and I'm working really hard to get somebody to allow recording, to see some of the output that you get. I mean, when I was first learning how to do this, I'm going to scramble in my kit that we always use. We were told build your ideal CEO, and I thought, okay, well,
Your ideal what? Say that again.
CEO, like your
CEO.
ideal
Okay.
leader, yeah, CEO, chief executive officer,
Okay.
and a lot of it's metaphor usage. So, like this green brick can mean a green brick. It can mean future growth. It can mean a turtle. It could mean yeah, the word just escaped me again. Environmental awareness. It could mean anything like that. So whatever you say the bricks mean is what they mean.
Okay.
But so I built this, and I'm going to put it on a little pedestal so you can see. I built my ideal CEO, and this is obviously just a very small part of it, but it was it was really cool because the facilitator was able to ask me a question. So that was my ideal CEO. It's just a little Lego minifigure with one foot up. I do not recall intentionally putting the foot up. I don't recall my brain telling me, "Oh, don't forget he or she needs to have a foot up." And so when the facilitator looked at my model and asked, what does that leg mean? His leg is up. Does that mean anything to you? And I thought, yeah, I think it means that I want him to be forward motion and always moving forward, not stagnant. And this is where we are and this is what we're doing. But how can we make this even better? Or how can we be even better together? And so ever since, all of my Lego figures now have one leg up because for me, that's taking me back to when I first learned how to do this and what it was about. And it just asking the questions and hearing some of the responses, even the members themselves are surprised. When you build with your hands, you open up 80% more of your brain power. And I tell people, don't overthink it, just build. Whatever your hands are doing, just build. Keep doing something don't overthink it, just build. And the models that they come up with are just fascinating. It's even at, it works for business, corporate groups, it works for individuals, it works for small groups. One of the groups I was coaching, a woman had to bring her kids in because school was out and the daycare wasn't open for some reason. And their builds were just as good, if not a completely different aspect, but the adult build. So everybody has a seat at the table. It doesn't matter how old you are, where you've been, what you're doing. I'm actually thinking of creating not a subscription box, but like a parenting play with purpose. So helping parents with these kits having more conversations with their kids instead of phone and digital all the time. We sit around the table and we talk about, we're building and we're asking questions and we're understanding a little bit more about what's going on in our kids' minds that they can't articulate as well verbally as they can when they're building.
A lot in there as well. Just the process of your hands doing something allows your mind to work in a different way. So different things come to mind or don't come to mind, but are present in the work there. It's kind of similar, sounds like, to maybe stream of consciousness writing, or
Absolutely.
there's a phrase for the certain type of journaling where it's basically it's stream of consciousness, but they don't call
Yep.
it that. But it's just put it out, just let the pen go. You're not overthinking
Exactly.
it. You're just doing. Have you done this with you mentioned a mother and children. Have you done it in a family type? I don't want to call it therapy or counseling, but in a family session, have you tried that, or is it mostly a smaller group, just professionally related or socially related?
It's a great question. And I have sent a prototype to my husband lives in Nashville with his two boys, and I live in Dallas, Texas with my girls. And so I sent him sets for he and the boys to do together with prompts and questions and all the details. I wasn't there, I was here, but he videotaped it and sent me the video of what they talked about and what it was like. And so for that aspect, yes, I have. I enjoy doing it with individuals as well. There's a standard kit that I send my coachees, and it's a mix match of bricks, but they're all the same. So each bag is the same that I send out. And I'll send, give them prompts over the Zoom or whatever we're using of, build your ideal job, build something that makes you happy, build something that you see as an impediment in your business. And we talk about the builds as they build, and we reflect and we look at the question, we look at different aspects of the builds to kind of bring awareness to them. I see that the bottom base is like black and brown bricks. Is there a reason? Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of stuck. And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about that. How do we get around that? And how do we, or work through that? And how do we get to a better place? But yeah, the bricks are you one-on-one. They can be small groups. The largest group that I like doing is probably 12 to 15, just because you want everybody to have time to share and etc. So yeah, individuals are so fun because they're like, my kids are going to be jealous when I get a bag of Legos. Like, right, but they're yours. They're not for them just yet. And I encourage people to leave them on their desk. I know you don't want stuff on your desk, but find a small little container that you can store your Legos in. And if you have a brain block, or if you're having a bad day, or if you're looking for, bring the bricks out and start building again and see what happens. Like, you'd be amazed at some of the things that your brain's going to put through your hands that's not actively percolating up there.
That's great. So many times I'm reminded of like the executive Zen garden, right? That you'll see and I have one actually. I don't have it on the table
Yeah.
here, but I do have one. Or
Yeah.
if nothing else, a stress ball, or what used to be the wave, the blue
Yeah.
and clear liquid thing that rocked back and forth. But
Mm-hmm.
those
Until
types
your
of
kids came
things,
and shook it, and then it was destroyed
exactly.
forever.
That's right. You
Exactly.
get the bubbles in and then started leaking and all that. Yeah. Oops, I
Exactly.
dropped it. Is that a bad thing?
And that's I understand. I don't like clutter on my desk either. But there's plenty of days where I break out my Legos and try to work through, what does this look like to me, and what do I want it to look like, and what's stopping me, and why? And it's really fascinating.
Have you ever had somebody just flat refuse? I'm not going to play with those. I'm too mature for that.
Yes, in a group setting. And I'm not trying to force
Right.
fun. This is an activity. We would like for you to participate. If you'll just try, there's a couple things we do at the beginning that are really innocuous. It's like no right or, I mean, it's just putting bricks together is all you're doing. Will you try, give it a chance, and just see what you think? And normally by the third or fourth exercise, they're the
Yeah.
ones that are jumping to the other
Yeah.
table to get more bricks, or ask, and like I said, I'm not a creative person. Like, that's just not how I'm very black and white. I'm that box normally kind of person. So to put Legos in front of people, it kind of lets their guard down. It just kind of says, we're just like, this is just play. We're just putting pieces together. And, I'm not trying to be manipulative at all. It's just a different way to open your brain to what's going on inside of there without struggling to find the right words because somebody might misinterpret, or struggling to say the right thing because maybe that's not a good idea. When we're building, we can say, this is what I think is a potential, you know, way for us to have more sales. And we talk about it, and there's other people that'll say, oh, I didn't even think about that, or I didn't know you thought that. That's amazing. Like, it really opens us up to understanding more of each other and understanding more of ourselves too.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I could give someone a sack of Legos and ask them to build something and, coach them through something and come up with a product. But you're basing that entire process on something, a much deeper understanding of things that are going on in the background. So while the foreground is looking at the Legos, the background, you must have a lot of training, a lot of experience in at least counseling, if not therapy. Can you tell us about your background on that side of things,
Sure.
schooling experience, that, and
Absolutely.
maybe what school? I know I saw some. Did I see neurolinguistic? And I was reminded of NLP, but I didn't know. I see neuroscience based
Yeah.
is the phrase that was in my mind. If there's a school that you come from or the work is based off of, can you just share some of the professional
Yeah,
aspects there?
absolutely. You'll be surprised. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a therapist. I'm a
Okay.
coach. And if in my work I find that maybe that's a direction that I want to encourage my clients to go to, I absolutely will. I'm a huge advocate for mental health. I see a counselor regularly, my kids often. So really, my background's a little bit different. I don't have a college education. I went to college for 3.5 years, studied nursing at Texas Tech University. In my third year, my dean was aware and noticed, you use all the tutors that are available. You're here at class every day. Like, what is going on with you? So she sent me to see an educational psychologist. This is back in 95, 96, when learning disabilities weren't a thing. It was, well, you're not studying hard enough, or you're not trying hard enough, or you're not listening in class, or whatever. So the educational psychologist, diagnosed me with a pretty severe learning disability. And it was kind of a wake up call, like, okay, so now it makes sense why I've struggled so much in school. And I was an AB student, but I had to bring home all my books every night to study, all the things every night. It wasn't fun for me. And work at the time was going great. I was being rewarded for I was in the restaurant business, being an awesome employee. I was traveling over the summer to train new employees at new restaurants. And so I thought, you know what, this feels really good, and this really doesn't. So I went the path in the restaurant business, and wanted to work up to the corporate office where I could then help managers train their employees on how to be good employees, how to train others. I really wanted to focus on the different adult learning principles. Everybody learns so completely differently. I could hand you a paper and say, study this, and you'd probably knock it out in an hour, hour and a half. For me to sit down and read an article like that, I would have to have like a completely silent room, no other distractions. Like I just don't learn that way. And so I really focused my career on helping others learn in different ways, helping understand that not everybody learns the same. And like I said, I worked from the restaurant business up to, I did a small stint in retail, and then I went to IT and cybersecurity, and here I am today. So I don't have any professional education at a university, but I have a ton of life experience. I've been certified in several different methodologies, and I continue to want to learn new methodologies. I know there's so much out there that resonate differently with different people. And so I try to use that experience to help them through whatever it is that they might be going through.
Great. I hope my question didn't come
No,
across as
not at all. No, I'm an open book.
as an academic, which I am not. I mean, I taught high school for quite a while, so some of the things you talk about there, not so much from an experience of myself, but in dealing with children,
Oh,
with high
that's
schoolers.
deserve like all the yes, they're amazing people.
I taught in a private Christian school, so it was quite a different situation than a lot of public school teachers. Yeah, and
Yeah.
the orders of magnitudes of difference between my situation and theirs. But you mentioned learning disabilities, and
Mhm.
we did a podcast episode a week or two ago with Rick Culleton, and it was talked about his ADHD and the struggles, but also, and then on the other side, and really learning disabilities become a regular piece of conversation on the podcast because once I'm going to say this, hoping you'll correct me or confirm it. Either way. And there's a little history to the question because, and I've gone through this before as a young teacher, starting in the mid '80s. I'll date myself again. Uh, Learning disability wasn't a thing.
Mhm.
You knew you had problem kids. You knew you had smart kids. And maybe the dumb kids too, depending on how you wanted to. The kids that didn't care. We'll put it that way.
Exactly.
You
That's
know,
about yeah.
a wide range of things. So we didn't know. There wasn't really a diagnosis, and the first time I came across it, it was very uncomfortable for me because I didn't know how to work with this one student, and the parents were asking questions that I couldn't answer. I was not prepared for it in any way. But it seems like as things have changed in education and in society itself, a learning disability still has some stigma, but not the stigma maybe that it used to have. And just the fact that you can name it, you
Yeah.
can, if not point to a cause, at least you can point to a commonality. This is something, this is not, you're not weird, you're not different.
Mhm.
You're a smaller representation in the population. And then
Yeah.
learning to harness that or work around it, I think is really, it's just one struggle that a lot of very successful people have gone through on top of number. No, nobody gets to be, real successful without the struggles.
Sure.
But identifying that, harnessing it if possible, you mentioned overcoming it, finding a way around it to surmount that challenge. Does any of that theory hold water?
Well, you touched on a lot there, Russell, and I'm going to
Yes.
start with, and that's good. That's all good. It's great conversation. I'm going to start with you didn't know back then, and we didn't know back then. We did, so it wasn't you individually didn't know how to. Nobody did. We,
Right.
as a society, didn't think that something may not be right with the kid. It's just they're not trying hard enough. Like try harder. Okay, you can't do that necessarily. I can try as hard as I want, but if there's a squirrel, then I'm out. Like see you later, alligator. So I interviewed with somebody once, and he said his ADHD is his superpower. And I was like, okay,
Right.
well, that's a good way. I mean, that's a good way of
No.
embracing it. I recognized when there would be like sales kickoff meetings that were in conference rooms, that you take high energy people, salesmen, saleswomen, and you put them in a conference room or a ballroom with tables, eight people per table, and then you force them to listen to a sales leader for 2 days. They're out of their minds, like they are gone. So after and I noticed the first day they would stand up, they'd kind of pace back and forth, they'd go to they were always like moving. The
Even that,
next,
pardon the interruption, even that is very school-like, right? It goes back to
yes,
50s education.
yes,
Sit at your
yes,
assigned seat,
yes.
listen to what's going on, and learn. Man,
Absolutely. No, you're exactly right. This is how we're going to teach you. I have to stand up here. You have to sit down there and listen. And this is important stuff. So you have to listen.
listen well.
Right, right. And they're not because they're not active. They're not engaged. I don't care how great of a speaker you have. If he's not or she's not a comedian or not somebody that can bring a lot of humor into it, it's going to be really dry, boring information. And yes, it's important that they learn, but the process isn't about how well I give it to you. It's how well are they accepting that information. And if they're not accepting that information, then it's a complete loss. So the second day, I brought in Play-Doh and I put a little small, not a big one, just a small container at every seat. And they came in, they're like, "What's up with the Play-Doh?" And I'm like, "You, it's yours. Whatever you want to do with it, do with it." "Well, is it for like an activity later?" "No, just use it." And I'm telling you what, Russell, I did not, there was no scientific method. There was just like a hunch. That day, they sat at the tables. They were listening to the conversation while they were playing, building the most intricate designs with Play Doh I have ever seen in my life. But it allowed me to see that they need something to do. Like just throwing people in a conference room and saying, "Let's brainstorm," isn't going to work. Like a lot of people don't, their brains just don't work like that. One of the methodologies I teach is Clifton Strengths Finders, which if if strategic is not, and there's 34 different themes and talents. It rates your 1 through 34. That everybody has the same. It just depends on how they're rated. If the 4 or 5 strategic are not in your top 5, if I put you in a conference room, you just shut down. Your
Hmm,
brain doesn't
yeah.
work that way. You don't want to incorporate. You don't want to participate because that. But when it comes to a new hire, I am all about that new hire. I'm going to make sure that person feels wanted, seen. I'm going to help teach them whatever they need to learn. But it's different ways that our brains work, and when we force people to do things that are against the way that their brain works, they shut down. They don't want to be a part of it. They can almost become negative and have like a really tarnished interpretation of what's happening. But yeah, the ADHD, it manifests in so many different ways and it manifests different in everybody. I heard a quote a long time ago. It's not what's wrong with us, it's what's happened to us. So if there's been
Wow.
trauma, I know, I was like, oh, that hits. If there's been trauma in our past, if there's been situations in our past that have been really positive or really negative, that really does taint who we are as adults. And it really does show that it's not that I'm not trying, it's that I'm not motivated. I don't feel safe. I don't feel important. There's other aspects to that of people shutting down. And when coaches or leaders in different positions can see that and can recognize and acknowledge that, I think that really allows the learner, ADHD or not, to just kind of go, okay, I feel seen. I feel like I'm safe here. And that's really, really, really important.
And when you say learner, of course, we could replace that with person because that applies in
Yes,
whatever the situation is, business, family,
absolutely.
social,
Yep.
whatever.
Yeah.
Say that quote again for me, please.
It's
It,
not what's wrong with you, it's what happened to you.
that's really strong.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we should have that plastered in a lot of classrooms and a lot
Yeah.
of business offices around the country.
Yeah. And I may not have it with me, but there was a book written. I will, yeah, hold on. It's on my bookshelf. Dr. Bruce Perry wrote the book originally, and then Oprah Winfrey came back and did a whole series with him on it. And and I'll be happy to send this to you if you want to show your listeners. It's not something that I said by any stretch, but the methodology behind it is fascinating and just how deep some of those wounds may be that the
Right.
person themselves don't even recognize it. They don't even see or understand why they're having that triggered response. But when you dig a little bit deeper, you're like, okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, that's really strong.
Yeah.
We talked again in a previous episode. I don't think the episode's even been released yet
Okay.
about trauma, identifying trauma, and we hear trauma and we think ER or PTSD,
Yeah.
significant abuse as a child, but trauma can be shallower than that. It can be deeper than that. And you alluded, I asked you to tie these two concepts together, maybe, because in your personal coaching, you certainly come across people, as you alluded to, that you would recommend to someone with a different approach, someone with maybe a medical background, a psychiatrist or a psychologist. What would you say to a listener who is on the borderline? Maybe, they obviously they're listening to the podcast, they're maybe reading materials and making some progress, trying some things, but there seems to be a roadblock or something they don't understand, something they can't get past.
Yeah.
Maybe they're hesitant about the, again, stigma
Sure.
of having counseling.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, I am a huge advocate for mental health. I also recognize that a particular counselor is not going to provide the same result to different people. So
Exactly.
my recommendation is to always talk to somebody. Like if you find a counselor that you really enjoy, talk to them. If you find a coach that you feel like can really tap into what you need and is driving you and pushing you forward to be better and to sometimes we can't heal those wounds and we can't heal that trauma, but we can learn how to deal with it. And that's been huge in my personal journey. But people that are struggling, like find somebody that you feel comfortable talking to. It doesn't have to be a licensed professional. Sometimes that's helpful depending on how deep and how much it's affecting your life. Maybe that's important. But if you have a pastor minister that's important to you, or a dear family friend, maybe a friend of your parents that was part of you growing up that may understand some of those things about what you went through. Now more than ever, mental health is being accepted. And
Right.
if anybody tells you that that's not okay or oh, you shouldn't go see a counselor, those are the people, sadly, that probably need it the most. So embrace what you need and get the help that you need, depending on wherever you're sitting, and know that you're worthy and of being better. You are more than enough to bring to the table in your space, wherever that space looks like for you. But you are loved and you are important to the people that are around you. So talk to somebody and find somebody that can really listen to you and can help you and kind of see where you are and where you want to go and can give you some really practical tips on how to get there.
We use the phrase on the podcast occasionally, talk therapy, which most people have the concept of, okay, that's the formal setting. I'm on the couch, or if it's an NLP or a CBT type of session where it's I'm having a conversation. But really, studies show talk therapy is not a formal therapeutic relationship that's required.
Right.
As you say, anybody, a pastor, a
Yeah.
friend, an old teacher,
Sure.
a younger person in your life,
Yeah.
really can create a lot of openings and a lot of possibility for understanding and progress within your own head.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And not every counselor is going to fit you. If you go to one
That's
and you're
important
like,
too.
oh, this is awful, like, that's okay. That's not the same as everybody else. And it's okay to ask for what you want when you set those appointments. I want to be able to just spill all of my stuff and not be judged. And the counselor should quickly, absolutely, would you like for me to help you with any of those things? Or I just wanted to make that differentiation that not all counselors are going to be great for everybody. Find the one that works for you. And there may even come a point, if you've been seeing them for 2 or 3 years, that it doesn't work anymore. And so it's okay to find a new counselor. My husband's been seeing the same guy for 12 years, I think, which I think is phenomenal. I'm glad that they've got that connection. I've never been so lucky. So I find different counselors every once in a while.
Those are all great points. If you have someone that's discouraging you from counseling or coaching or mentoring or therapy, whatever
Yeah.
level it is, that's the person, as you say, that might need it the most. And
Mm-hmm.
why they would discourage someone, there must be some selfish reason there.
Or insecurity. There's insecurity.
Exactly,
Yeah, absolutely
exactly.
pops up everywhere. Yeah.
But if you're in a relationship, in a professional relationship with a mentor or someone, and they discourage you from expanding into something else, that's the same red flag.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was surprised. I took some graduate courses when I was still teaching in school counseling. So I have a little bit of familiarity with it. And I was surprised at one point they talked about, how people should find a counselor. And this was in a counseling education process. They
Yeah.
said the first thing a person should do is call multiple counselors
Mm-hmm.
and do an intake interview.
Yes.
Because as you say, you may not, you probably not find it on the first. Did you find your dentist on your first visit? I
Well,
did because it was in second grade and that's where I
right,
had to go. Right, that was the
right.
only option there was. But
And you just brought up a good point. It's not just about you liking and feeling comfortable with a counselor. The counselor needs to be comfortable with you too. And if there's something that, and again, we all have our baggage, we all have our trauma. If there's something that's in your world that maybe isn't comfortable for them, then it's okay for them to say, hey, I'd love to help you, but I really think maybe you could try this person instead. Great. If you don't know where to start, talk to people in your community, or talk to people that and just, do you guys know of any counselors I can start talking to? Or
yeah,
call a counselor, like you said, just do intake interviews and talk to people and see if it's going to be a good fit for you. They should not charge, side note, for those intake
exactly.
interviews, just to make sure it's
Good
a good
point.
fit. But yeah, I mean, mental health is really, really important. And in the hierarchy, depending on your faith, you, and then your spouse, and then your kids, and then everything else. And on the top of mostly all of those is you. Because if you're not a healthy you can't be healthy for anybody else. You can't be present and aware of all the things if you're struggling in your own space.
I think anybody, even the casual listener at this point, certainly understands that, as we said at the top, while your business model deals mostly with work related things, the things that work to fix problems at work to fix problems at home and everywhere else. If there is someone, and here's my segue for you to make things available as much as you like, if there's a listener that is interested in learning more, I know your primary website is elevateyourtalent.co.
That's correct.
So listeners, you can check that out and see a little bit about some of the things involved there. But there's also a tab there, or a button there, for one-to-one coaching.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah, elevateyourtalent.co, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Jolyn Ledgerwood. I also have a personal coaching website called jolynledge.coach. You're more than welcome to reach out there. And individual time, I want to talk about what's going on in your world. I'm going to ask challenging questions. I'll send you some Legos that we can play with and kind of work through some things. There's different methodologies I use. Clifton Strengths, I think, is phenomenally successful in the personal and the professional world. So when you explain your work to me, it's called Clifton Strengths. It's the Clifton Strengths Finder. Yeah. It's a yeah, it's an assessment you take. It's not a test, it's just an assessment. And the questions are really random. It's going to be like, do you like to walk your dog, or do you like to make lasagna? And you're like, these have nothing to do with each other, but there's a purpose through it. And when we get the results of that is when I'm really able to talk about what drives you, what motivates you to do the work that you do, and what are hindrances that you have. And I don't want to say, the opposite of strength is weak. And I don't call these weaknesses, I call these lesser strengths, because we all have them. And sometimes you go, and if I have a quick second to give an example, my number 34, which is the bottom of the bottom, is empathy. And I was like, I'm a mom of three of my own kids and two, right? It's because I have another strength that's higher called individualization and high responsibility. So when my little girls were young and they would trip and fall on the sidewalk, my first response was not the empathetic, oh, I'm sorry, are you okay? Did you stub your toe? What happened? My first response was, well, why did you trip? Were you not looking where you're going? Is your shoe not tied? Yes, I can engage my empathy, but I know that that is an intentional, I'm really sorry you're struggling. That's got to be so hard. I look at what causes us to be where we are. Yeah, solve the problem first, right? So it's different, but we all have the same strengths. It just depends on what order they pop up in. Just a little stat: one in 277,000 people will have your same top five. One in 33 million will have them in that order. So that really resonates with how different we really are. So my top five strengths, there's only 33 million people. No, there's one in 33 million people that have those same strengths. It's really rare. And they're probably not here in the United States. So we'll say that. But yeah, I take an individual approach. Like, what are you looking for? How can I help you? How often do you want to meet? There's all types of ways. And you mentioned it earlier. It's not just you as a person and who you are. It's who you are as a father, and who you are as a employee, or who you are as a leader, or who you are as a dad. And how does that show up in the the things that you do every single day, and how do you want to be better or different, and how can I help support that? So it's a different approach. Yeah. Myers-Briggs, yeah. That's okay. Disc, they're all the same. Yeah. Ooh, I'm not one. No, I'm sorry. Right. Right. Exactly. Ooh, yeah. And not all are going to resonate with you versus the other. Like there's a lot of people that like live and die by Myers-Briggs, and it doesn't speak to me. Disc is normally like on projects at work, not holistic person. Yeah. Oh, please. Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and what you said is right, they're masks. So when I do an assessment at work, I'm thinking, who am I supposed to be here and how am I supposed to be that way? Where when I ask people to do strengths in a neutral environment, don't think about work, don't think about home, just think about you as a person, what makes you happy, what drives you, what makes you feel good, all those things. And the thing about strengths is once I get those results, I can go, okay, now how can we apply these to work? And how can we apply these to home? And how can we apply these to being a dad or being a whatever? And what do they really mean to you individually? Because when I find that if someone's reports high strategic and they're in a leadership role, I'm like, great, what a perfect fit. That's amazing. But if I have somebody that's not very strategic in a leadership role, they feel challenged by that, and I'm like, that's when you know your team and you know what your team's strengths are, and you cater to their higher strengths if they're lesser for you. For example, I was director of training at a cybersecurity company. I am not strategic at all. I'm the woohoo, everybody love, just have fun, let's, I'm the positivity whatever. So I went to my instructional designer and I said, hey, we have to write a plan for next year. What do you think? He's like, I'm on it. 2 days later, he brings this plan. We made a few tweaks here and there, but all in all, it was spot on with what we were talking about doing and what we wanted to accomplish and this and that. So two things happened there. One, I didn't stress for 3 days having to write this thing that I hate and don't want to be a part of and just bleh. Two, I empowered one of my employees to do something that makes him feel really good and special and wanted and important and all those things. What a win. Like, why are we forcing now? Because I'm not strategic doesn't mean I can't write reports on the work that we're doing and assessment. No, I still have to do my job. But are there other people that are around me in my job that I can work with for us all to accomplish something better and for us all to enjoy our work more? Absolutely. Why not? Like, there's no reason why we shouldn't be doing those things. So, yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Well, and crazy. My first thought was like high school group projects. I'm like, they just throw it at them, and they don't give any help. And like you said, the teacher leader doesn't coach into who should do what pieces. So it's normally, almost always, a complete mess that somebody, one or two people in the group feel like they did all the work. The other people feel like they didn't have a chance to contribute, it's just like, and I think a lot of that too is when you say, well, what part do you want to do? I think people are scared to be themselves and say, well, I'm not really good at posters, but I really want to do this research because doing research looks like totally nerdy. Why would anybody want to do that? We need to be able to be ourselves to say, this is what I want to do, and to be able to speak up and not be criticized for that. These are the parts that I would really like to do. I think you would be great at these parts. Oh, I'm glad that you said that, but I really don't want to do that. So coming to a consensus together on what does that look like, and how do we all work together to accomplish this when we each want to do these different pieces. So yeah, you named it right there. Right. Yeah. Mhm. Absolutely. Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Absolutely. Hmm. I think that's how Scrum was probably invented, was to deal with that. That was just on a whim, but I'm like, that's maybe why Scrum came along, because nobody knows what they're doing, and nobody wants to tell the other people that they're struggling or that they need help. And like, it kind of goes back to the whole society views that help is not cool, but it's okay to say, hey, you know what, I really need your help here, and I really want to accomplish this thing, and I really could use your help. So to humble ourselves to say that we're human, we don't have all the answers, we can't do all the things. It's okay to ask other people for help. Yeah, I do, absolutely. No, I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. This is great. Mhm. So many questions. I love it. My podcast is called Play for Performance. It's where I interview other play practitioners in the workplace. And it's people that bring fun, it's people that bring rest, it's people that bring all different types of playfulness into the workplace. And it's really fun to do. I hope you enjoy it as well. And I am on YouTube, Spotify, all the different places. As of right now, we have a limited number released. I had a unfortunate clog in my schedule over the last couple of months, so we are working to get those released a little bit quicker and on a more steady basis. I do have a newsletter on LinkedIn. I have not written a book. I've been told by several people that I should, so I'm thinking about that. And articles, really, again, that's really probably more of my LinkedIn newsletter than anything else. Yeah, absolutely. Reach out if I can help. If you need recommendations, if you need referrals to other people, just let me know. And I love helping people. If I could just do my coaching work and not charge people, I'd be okay with that. But I have bills and I have kids and all those things. So yeah, I love what I do, and I'd love to help anybody that has been struggling to make that decision one way or the other. I do. I don't have 10, but I can give you two or three. Miller has been a really great writer for me. And obviously, I mean, I listen to Brene Brown I do most of her books Audible when I'm driving places to place. Bob Goff has been a huge inspiration for me. He is an author, lawyer, political, I can't think of he's an ambassador to a foreign country. I think it's Uganda, but I'm not 100% sure. He's just phenomenal. He brings play. He wrote a book called Catching Whimsy. Like, he's all about playfulness, and he'll weave some faith into his stories, but he's a great storyteller. He just brings it on a level where let's just have fun and do what we love to do, and he's a great writer. But yeah, I really am kind of across the board. I'm not stuck to one person's way or another person's methodology. I kind of just learn a little bit from all of them and kind of pull them together. So yeah, I don't, I love the physical book, but I don't have time to sit and read books. And so I do a lot of them on Audible, and that allows me the time to think and to process. And there's times where I'm so into the book, I'm like, wow, I should have exited like 3 times ago. Like, I should probably get back on my route. But yeah, I love learning more. I am a high learner, so, and that's Clifton Strengths Talk. I do love to learn. If I could go be trained in all of the different methodologies, I would absolutely do it. I don't have the time. So yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. And I'm sorry I didn't mention Patrick. That should have been my first one. I just kind of felt like that was assumed. I'm so sorry. The Yeah. Which one is it? Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's Vincent Van Gogh's Starry Night. That's Lego. And then so is those are all Lego pieces, yes. And that was my favorite build of all. This is the Yes, sir. That's the Great Wave, and then I've got the Milky Way. My camera won't go all the way over, but the Milky Way is also all Lego pieces. But yeah, that's other than the books, that's all I have on my bookshelf for Legos because I mean, building is it's fun, it's relaxing, and can be very strategic at the same time. Who knew? Mhm. Sure. Yeah, sure. Awesome. Thank you. Just recently, I went on a retreat to mountaintop 9,700 feet, and really got in touch with my inner self. Like, it was an eye-opening experience. I We would go up on this ridge and we would do yoga every morning at 7 a.m. and watch the sunrise. And it was a reminder that we are not here on the earth, but we're of the earth. And so every morning I wake up and I do yoga, just kind of a grounding, putting my feet on the ground, just recognizing that I'm here and I'm present. I work on my breathing if I'm having struggles during the day, just kind of recentering. And then at night, I wish I could say it's every night, but it's most nights, I journal about my day. And that's just like the free writing that we talked about earlier, just what worked. It's not prompts, it's just writing down the things and how I feel about the things. And that's helped me tremendously through my adult years, both parenting and career wise, to just refocus on the little things are going to happen. But if we can be I don't say bigger, but if we can work around and rise above, then we're doing better. And I see my counselor every week. So it depends on what day of the week that happens. But like I said, I'm a big advocate for mental health. And if it's not play to get you through what you're working through, yeah, find somebody that can help you because life's too short to live miserable. So if we can find just a piece of happiness and how to grow that within your space, I think that's very healthy. And it's been a pleasure being on your show. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. It's been awesome. You do. Thank you. Bye, everybody.